So I have a question for you. When I say attorney, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? What'd you say? Lawsuit. Closing. What else? Ex-wife. Okay. What if we're missing out on something really, really big? What if we're missing out on, if I were to tell you that the next person I'm going to bring up and introduce you to is a fortune teller? How cool is that, right? So there's an element, you know, there are some of us that will go see a doctor when we get sick, okay? Sometimes some people use lawyers, attorneys the same way. We only go see them when we have a problem. What if we were able to introduce ourselves to somebody who can help us avoid the problems? Okay, how many of you have sold real estate, sold homes where somebody has aged out, they passed away, you know, it's like sudden, and then mom, dad, somebody, whoever, they're just gone, okay? And now the family's just now finding out, oh, like, what are we going to do with all this stuff? And now, like, oh, the estate's getting involved, and oh, how does all this stuff actually get taken care of, okay? So what if we had somebody who was literally a fortune teller for our family, and they're able to help us cover our assets? Okay, so help me welcome to the stage. This is Evan Bermudez. He's from Sperry Hatley Law Firm. They have a little booth out here as well. Welcome. Welcome up. Okay, so Evan's an attorney with Sperry Hatley Law Firm. They do specialize in real estate and estate planning, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So as I mentioned, a lot of times we think of attorneys, when we only think about somebody just to call them in and clean up my mess, right?
Unfortunately.
So what would happen if we called you in advance? Like, what would we do? So every person in this room sells homes. Every person here is dealing with mostly the biggest asset that clients have, right? I mean, you think about their home, and if it's a $300,000 home or a $3 million home on Lake Norman, typically for a lot of people, that is their biggest asset. And they're dealing with it day in, day out, okay? So when they bring a transaction, when they have a client, and they take it across the finish line, and they take this client through a closing, and again, like your firm deals with real estate, but you deal with the estate planning side of things. I'm curious about the connection with those two and what you would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest mistake that I see is that when we're doing a real estate closing, estate planning is a part of that. It is a step in that process. So a lot of people think, okay, once my closing's done, I'm good to go. That's not the case. That's really never the case. Everyone needs estate planning. The secret's out. We're gonna pass away someday, unfortunately. But you know, when we take a look at this closing, it's important for everyone to know that. Well, let me start with this first. How many people have seen on social media, I need a trust or I need a will? We've seen that? Right. How many people actually do that? It sounds great. It sounds like something we need to do, but it's something that we kick it down the road, kick the can down the road, and we just say, I'll get to it. So what happens with that is if we don't do that when we're closing on that property down the road, we're going to have problems. So when I take an investor, per se, you know, I'm going to take a look at their entity structure. I'm going to take a look at what they've got going on. Now, a lot of them don't realize, I'll take a look at their portfolio and say, hey, you know, we've got a lot of these properties in our own name. Your personal assets are subject to a lot of exposure of liability there. So, you know, and we can go the investor route and we can go the family route. The same thing with a family. So I'll take a look at a family closing on their first home. They've got a few kids, you know. Yes, we need to put that in the trust, but my trusts are not just that. What we also do is we'll nominate short-term, long-term guardians. So it's going beyond the transaction of just that closing. And what that does for you guys as agents, when you suggest to sit down with an estate planning attorney, that makes you guys look like a trusted advisor. because you're not just looking at, the transaction at hand, you're planning for their future financial success, and they are going to trust you to the end of time. You're going to get those referrals. They're going to keep coming back.
So I have a question. If someone has, somebody's like, I'm a adventurous kind of person, and it could be some people in this room, it could be one of their clients, and they're just like a sole proprietor, they're out there doing their thing, they're like, I'm smart with real estate, I'm a hustler, and I got 10 investment properties, I'm flipping a few, and I'm renting a few, and I get out here on 77, I get into a car accident, am I exposed?
Potentially. If we don't have those in the right entity structure, everything that you have, now you've worked very hard to get that portfolio, and that's great, but what about your personal assets? You don't think about those things, and you don't think a car wreck on 77 is going to expose that, but because you didn't plan right and you didn't do the proper steps to take that action, now we've got a major issue on our hands beyond the accident.
Someone in the same profession who works for the person that they got in an accident with is going to start going through, looks like a lot of money sitting here, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're going to go after it. So what does that mean in terms of different vehicles that you guys use? So if somebody had investment properties, or again, it could just be their house on Lake Norman, what kinds of vehicles or instruments do you guys use to help protect people's assets?
Yeah, so as far as what an estate plan consists of, it's going to really depend on the specific circumstances. So for an investor with a big portfolio, I'm going to look at a broad range of things. We're going to look at those entity structures, going to make sure that's tailored together, and then we're going to tie it into a trust, kind of creating that ultimate protection. Now, let's say, go back to that example with the family with the kids. That's where we're gonna plan for the succession so that the kids are gonna be set up for their future. We're also gonna avoid that nasty probate that I'm sure a lot have heard about. That is not a fun thing to go through. So, it really just depends on the specific scenario. My plans are not a one fits all. You will hear some attorneys, here's a stack of documents, I hope it works out for you, here you go. When I sit down with my clients, it is all about you understanding your plan and how it works for you. So there's not a specific set for one type of person.
So I want you to tie two things together for me. So many things in life, we think about it, and it sounds good on paper. This conversation sounds good. I know you have stories, okay? So I know you have stories, and I want you to tie one into this, but I also want you to take that and maybe package it for everybody here, so when they have somebody who's either buying and selling investment properties, or they have someone who's buying that house, they're like the primary breadwinner within their family tree or something like that, or they're starting to build generational family wealth kind of stuff. What's the conversation look like? When should they be doing it? And give us a hairy story real quick.
So, I always suggest before that closing happens that we sit down and have an estate conversation, because it is much easier to go and take that estate plan, and then once we close in that property, that property is seamlessly going to go into the trust. Now, you can do it after as well, but again, it's going to be much easier to set it up initially. I had an agent refer to me a family, again, 2 kids, kind of a sad story, but it is a reality of life. They go through, I set up short-term, long-term guardians, and unfortunately, the husband is out of town and the wife gets into an accident. Who looked like the hero? Not me, the agent that referred that over, because when that happened and their kids were not susceptible to child protective services, that's when, again, the agent looks like the hero. So it comes back to you guys. I'm the middleman. I'm here to be a tool for you guys. That is it. And it really, you guys are going to shine from referring that sit down before closing. They're going to say, oh my gosh, my agent's thinking beyond this transaction. They're thinking about my financial success and my financial future. So it speaks volumes for you guys.
Cool beans. So appreciate it, Evan. Absolutely. If you guys have other questions as it relates to trusts or vehicles to protect assets, and again, you're dealing with your clients, typically their biggest assets being the houses that they're flipping or the ones that they own and live in. If you want to connect, Evan's got his email up here, and he's also got a booth out there as well. And absolutely. I thank you very much. It's been awesome.
Thank you guys for having me.